Welcome to Now in the 90s, where we look at the video game releases of 30 years ago today. This week, to boldly go where no one has gone before, an obscure Sega CD RPG and a sports game shatters the backboard. I'm your host Jared, and today is March 22nd, 1994. There are sports games, and then there are 90s sports games. Sports games so good that they transcend the genre and become loved by gamers everywhere, but not just fans of the sport. Released in March 1994 for the Super NES, the Sega Genesis, and the Game Gear, was NBA Jam.
Jam.
NBA Jam is a 2-on-2 basketball game. Dribble, pass, shoot, and dunk the ball for points. You also have a turbo button for faster movement, bigger dunks, and faster passes. You can also straight up shove people to the ground to steal the ball. If you can score 3 times in a row without interruption, you'll be on fire, giving you unlimited turbo and 100% accuracy and some hilariously over-the-top slam dunks. Choose any of the real NBA teams with real players, go through an entire season, or do some 2-player action in either versus or co-op. NBA Jam was developed by Midway as an arcade game released in 1993. The console port was handled by Iguana Entertainment, who previously made Aero the Acrobat. The idea for the game began when Midway's last arcade game, Total Carnage, which was a follow-up to Smash TV, didn't do so hot. But they had all this great real-person digitization technology that they wanted to use. Their idea was to use it all to make a follow-up basketball game that was similar to the one that they made before, Arch Rivals, for the NES. That game also features larger-than-life movements and punching your opponents to steal the ball. They wanted to do that, but with real players. It took a couple of tries, but with the NBA on board, Midway was able to put tons of actual players into their game. They all have their own stats. You could swap them out between quarters if they got too beaten down with injuries, and it was just cool to play as your favorites and see their faces. Even the character sprites were accurate with hairstyles and height. NBA Jam had a huge marketing budget, $10 million, a staggering amount compared to most games of the time. The arcade cabinet was everywhere. It got tons of magazine advertisements, and the console ports were their own hyped-up release. NBA Jam graced the cover of Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine's February 1994 issue, getting more of a spotlight than Sonic the Hedgehog 3. GamePro magazine made it their March 1994 cover issue, and what I can only assume was a huge oversight, Nintendo Power didn't cover it at all. They didn't hop on the train until the sequel. All this marketing, all these spots, all of these sweepstakes and contests were certainly beneficial, but were practically unnecessary thanks to the direct association with the NBA. Now, in the 90s, basketball had never been more popular. It was a huge sport with fans far and wide and attendance hitting record levels. This is in no small part to the biggest NBA star of the time, Michael Jordan. He became a cultural icon due to his skill and prowess on the court, spawning all kinds of advertisements, and of course, the slogan that kids everywhere could get behind, "Be like Mike." This fervor around the sport made it easier for a game like NBA Jam to be super hyped up. Michael Jordan does not appear in NBA Jam. He is one of the few NBA players who owned the rights to his own likeness, and he was too expensive to license. However, Midway did make all kinds of secret codes to play as some hidden characters. This included a few members of the Midway development team, but also some weird ones like Bill Clinton and Al Gore. To the surprise of no one, NBA Jam was met with critical acclaim. EGM awarded it a 9 out of 10 from every reviewer, with the Editor's Choice Platinum Award and the Game of the Month, beating out titles like Castlevania Bloodlines and Mega Man 6. GamePro magazine also gave very high remarks to every version of the game, but also noted that the SNES version was the superior one with its graphics and sound. NBA Jam sold millions. It became the best-selling game for all of March 1994 and was the second best-selling game for the entire year of 1994, beaten only by Donkey Kong Country. It would get an enhanced follow-up in 1995 with NBA Jam Tournament Edition, with sequels continuing in the NBA Hang Time series, and then a reboot in 2010 with NBA Jam for the Nintendo Wii, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3, which is where we last saw the NBA Jam series. It also paved the way for other arcade-like sports games such as NFL Blitz, MLB Slugfest, and NHL Open Ice. Its cultural impact is still felt to this day with any arcade sports game, and thanks to the very enthusiastic announcer of the game, Tim Kitzrow. His voice clips and commentary throughout the game is iconic, as you can still hear the exact lines in his voice. "He's on fire. From downtown. Is it the shoes?" And boom shakalaka. An under-supported platform gets an obscure game that is overlooked. Released in March 1994, was Dark Wizard for the Sega CD. Dark Wizard is a strategy RPG game. Choose one of 4 leaders, each with their own faction, and lead your armies to victory. Move units around a hexagonal grid map, attacking other units, and casting magic spells. Take over enemy towns, use your money to hire new units or search for treasure. Send leaders into towns to purchase items and talk to NPCs. Watch plenty of animated cinematics and defeat the demon generals. Dark Wizard was developed and published by Sega, and it had a little bit of star power behind it. It was directed by Kenji Terada, the same man who helped write Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3. That meant very little for the Western release, but it was a big deal in Japan. In fact, everything about it was basically more popular in Japan than North America. The earliest previews we got were in EGM, who compared it to games like Shining Force, only with lots of beautiful cinematics, and that's about it. No other real mentions of the game happened until after its release, like when GamePro magazine mentioned it in their July 1994 issue. Japan, on the other hand, got hyped about it years before it even came out. It even got its own TV commercial. Like I said, it was a much bigger deal there. It was a hard sell for the West. It was a niche genre with a niche art style, as this was before the anime boom in America. As such, Sega didn't give it nearly as much of an effort, which is too bad because the game did review pretty well. GamePro magazine awarded it a 4.75 out of 5, noting that it has a lot of depth and replayability, and that it isn't just, quote, a slideshow of pretty cutscenes. EGM awarded it an average 7 out of 10, loving it a lot even if the gameplay style might be too slow for everyone. There's no sales data available for it, so it's difficult to say how much of an impact Dark Wizard had. It was for the Sega CD and a stylized RPG, so likely it wasn't much. It's gone on to be an uncommon game for the platform and has never gotten any kind of port or re-release. One of the most iconic staples of television's every week, a sci-fi legacy, makes its way to home console. Also released this month 30 years ago was Star Trek: The Next Generation Futures Past for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Star Trek is an adventure simulator game. Take command of the bridge of the Enterprise D and lead the crew to solve intergalactic conflicts. Converse with aliens on the main screen, sit through all kinds of ship computer systems, plot a course with a warp factor, and then make it so. Scan planets to see what dangers it could have, and then beam down iconic crew members from the show, or some completely generic red shirts that I have never seen before in my life. Get into space combat, shoot some phasers on stun, and read a lot of text as you wax philosophical and negotiate peacefully. Futures Past, called Echoes of the Past on Genesis, was developed and published by Spectrum Holobyte, who were best known at this point for making all kinds of flight simulators for PCs. And also Word Tris, but I'm not going to hold that against them. Now, in the 90s, Star Trek was hitting its prime. The Next Generation was in the midst of its 7th and final season. Deep Space Nine was in its 2nd season, and Voyager would premiere later in 1994. It was a good time to be a Star Trek fan. The game itself does its best to emulate what it would be like to be a member of the crew. It uses a lot of actual sound effects from the show, the computer screens had that same display and font, and getting to play as your favorite crew members brought it all together. The promotion for the game was natural. There was plenty of television shows for brand recognition, new movies coming up, contests, and behind-the-scenes shots everywhere. Still, for the game, there was plenty of preview coverage to be had. GamePro magazine showcased it in their February 1994 issue, and Nintendo Power gave several pages of coverage in their April 1994 issue. No television commercial though, since it had plenty of presence on TV already. The reviews for the game were basically what you would expect for a tie-in licensed game. The SNES version generally scored higher in its graphics and sound, But everyone liked both versions of the game for being faithful recreations which fans of the show will love, but nobody else will. It'll be really boring to any non-Star Trek fan, which, they're right. It's as boring as Chief O'Brien. Futures Past was supposed to get more ports available with an announced Atari Jaguar and a Sega CD version, but those never came to be. Much like most other licensed games, it never got any kind of port or re-release after this. And at the buzzer with a monster jam for everything else released this week, here's Editor Dylan.
NBA Jam may be fun and iconic and great in every way, but can it do this? I rest my case. NBA Action 94 is clearly the superior basketball game. Wait, how does the announcer sound?
The shot clock down to 5. Rejected.
Yep, definitely better than NBA Jam. Yeah, I can't keep up this facade any longer. I got the scraps yet again. God damn it! On the 3DO is the other lesser-known jam-based basketball game this week. But what it lacks in gameplay and polish and accolades and mainstream recognition, console availability and the NBA's endorsement, and broad appeal and genre innovation, somebody better bust out the peanut butter because we got a hidden jam alert! Jamet's Grand Am Slammin' Jams are partially thanks to the iconic Korg M1's 49th patch, which, as I explained last month, is that funky fresh slap bass that I personally can't resist. But we have to move on to our other 3DO release this week with Super Wing Commander, a remake of sorts of the original game that I also never played. At a glance, it's Star Wars. After listening to it, it sounds a bit like Star Wars. It's a space combat sim that plays kinda like, I can't help but feel like I'm upsetting a lot of people, and I don't know why, so I'm just gonna change the subject with a question. When you hear the term FMV game, what type of game comes to mind? I ask this because the last 3 games this week are on the Sega CD, and all of them fall under this category, but every one of them has a different type of gameplay. First up is Tomcat Alley, where you... Let's be real. You watch a movie about a fighter pilot, but every now and then you need to select a target within a very brief window of time. The bulk of it is kind of like Sewer Shark in that it plays like a light gun game with a controller. But apparently this was the first FMV game to go full screen and not relegated to a tiny box. Kind of like Revenge of the Ninja, which is an anime version of Dragon's Lair. This is the type of game I assume most people think of when they hear FMV. You see a button flash on screen that you only get 3, maybe 4 milliseconds to press before telling your parents you just burned through that $5 in quarters they gave you 2 minutes ago. I mean, get a game over. I tend to stay away from games like this since I'd much rather just watch the thing in higher quality and maybe queue up a death compilation or something. But our final game this week has the gameplay I think of whenever I hear FMV, Double Switch. I think these are the same people who made Night Trap, which is the 90s equivalent of Five Nights at Freddy's. Of the 3 FMV Sega CD games this week, Double Switch is probably the only one I'd recommend solely because of its over-the-top cheese. The performances are just as wacky as Night Trap, and the premise is largely the same as well. I might even go as far as saying it's better from a character and setting standpoint. There's a lot of personality in every set and costume. Then again, I didn't get very far. I'll have to watch it on YouTube later because I'm currently at the Golden Saucer in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and who else but not Tifa comes knocking on my door wanting a date. So now I gotta reload a previous save to be extra mean to everyone. So with that, 12 games came out on these consoles this week in 1994.
Hey, sorry I took NBA Jam from you.
Yeah, it was the only basketball game I liked as a kid.
Well, you know how it is. I have host privileges.
Nah, I get it. It definitely deserves to be featured. It's that good. Plus, I got my damn jam fix from Jam It, damn it.
How about next time we play each other in NBA Jam to settle it?
You know what? I have a better idea. How about you take the final sports game this month?
Sounds good.
Wait. Let me check real quick. All right, let's see here. End of March. Oh, Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely take that one, please. It's all yours, dude.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Dylan. Here in the Collector's Corner, NBA Jam rules, and it's an easy addition to your collection. It had a retail price of $74.99, but $64.99 for the Genesis version, and now just the cartridges go for $11 on the SNES and only $5 for the Genesis or Game Gear. Complete copies with box and manuals go for $35 on Nintendo, $11 for Genesis, and $17 for Game Gear. Dark Wizard is obscure, but not sought after either. It had a retail price of $49.99. If you manage to find the disc by itself, it's worth $35. With a not shattered plastic case and the manual, it's then worth $76. The Star Trek games aren't worth much either. Either cartridge only goes for $9, but once completed, the SNES copy is $40 and the Sega copy is $17. And that's it for today. Next week, a surprisingly good SNES adventure game, a Star Wars port, and hey, why not? One more sports game for the road.
That's right.
I'm your host, Jared, and this was Now in the 90s. Thank you so much for watching Now in the 90s. I want to thank some patrons like BJ Kamire, A Dream of Winter, and Dark Kellex. Please like the video and leave a comment down below and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you already are a subscriber, thank you so much for watching this show every single Friday. I want to let you guys know that I will be a guest at Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin from April 5th to April 7th. If you're going to be there, come on by, say hi, feel free to ask some questions, check out my panels, would love to see you there. I love doing retro game shows like that. I've done a few recently, and another guest was Tim Kitzrow, the announcer for NBA Jam. His booth is hilarious. He has a microphone with a speaker on it, and he just stays at his booth doing the NBA Jam announcer voice clips the entire time, and it's kind of incredible. Check it out sometime.